what is the first lesson that you want to teach your kids?
That's a very, very good question. I never thought about that. I have my ups and downs, but every experience that I had taught me a lesson. Either I gain a new skill or I strengthen my skill set that I utilize on a day-to-day basis.
Like one time I had a hobo spat at me. Ooh, Lord, I was going to go to jail. I was going to go to jail, but instead I gave him $1. I said, have a blessed day.
You have to get out of it. Once you get comfortable, it's very, very hard to get out. It's very, very hard to get out. So little do you guys know, Clairvoyant did lock up our phones at one point.
Yo, that's
I
true.
want to talk about that a little bit.
Yes.
But in order to build a kingdom, you have to be a team.
That's true.
You have to be a power team. You have to learn your strengths, your weaknesses, and then come to one common ground and build from that. From that base, that foundation.
All right, y'all. My name is Elijah. Welcome back to another video of Amor to Share Podcast. We are here with my good friend.
My name is Joshua.
Nice to meet you. Like, welcome to the channel. I'm so happy that you made it here.
It's a pleasure.
Like, man, me and Ja go way back since high school. One of the coolest people I met. Got in trouble mad times in high school too.
I'm gonna lie, we were some troublemakers,
Word.
So
Word.
I'd say that.
I mean, we here now. Like, I'm really blessed and I'm happy to be successful and to bring in my community. Like, Ja was one of my biggest inspirations for starting a business in general. Back in high school, no problem. Back in high school, I started a clothing brand because he did. I saw how successful and I saw his motivation. He brought in people. He really created a community to represent that brand, and I wanted to do that as well. So he is one of the biggest catalysts and inspirations for me. So I'm so happy to bring him on here right now. So Ja, to start off with, we're gonna ask you a couple questions. We're gonna dive into a little deeper topics later on. So the first question I do want to ask you is, knowing that we are a Black community, we both grew up around the same area, I would like to know, what are some businesses that you would like to see within your own community?
That's a good question. Well, for me, I love my community. I think it's genuine. Everything is real. I like to see like a space for like kids that can be creative.
Okay.
Because as a young kid, I always fell in love with like being creative, arts, film or whatnot. Sometimes I never had the space to be, act freely, and produce the best outcome. So I feel as that there was like a space, like a big space that kids could come in and be like creative or make. It could be anything, just being themselves and striving for greatness.
I really do respect that, man. Yeah, I think I also want the same thing. Like, if I had a place to go to, even like an after school program that I could spread into my creativity, that would really help like the foundation of my growth. From what I know is that you actually do have a similar group where you have a whole bunch of creative minds. So Can you tell me more about that?
Yes. So currently it's in the works. We are called Create.us. Just young people, creative minds. They've been dabbling with like film and graphic design. It's a whole bunch though. We have some projects coming out soon. So stay tuned.
Okay. I love to hear it. Speaking of that, when you first told me about it, I wanted to know, like, what was the start of it? Like, what made you in your group like inspired to create that type of community or group?
Initially, we all share like a passion, to create something. Whether it was just, well, at first we used to hang out, hang out, go out, have fun, but there was always that one thing that was always good at. So we just stuck to it, and it made us even stronger and it strengthened our skills. So it was like, why not, create a team where we could produce the best, films and designs and everything, to help our community.
Absolutely.
I feel as that people are scared to, tap into their creativity. Just like you said in the space, people always misconstrue that being talented or being gifted is just naturally given to you. Like lay down the line. If you really tap in and see what you're good at, go for it. Yeah,
I think that's great. I most definitely wish I could, be a part of something like that. Like, I think what you're doing is you are not only reimagining the process and giving a space for people to grow, but you are also surrounding yourself with successful and like-minded people.
Yep.
And through that, you guys could reach many lengths. Who knows, where you guys will go to. Exactly. And I think that's perfect. So to dive into the next topic, what I would also want to know is, since both of you and I grew up in the same environment, I want to know, how has your environment changed or influenced who you are right now?
Okay. Well, my environment or my community, I could say, as of right now, it could be better. I could say that, there's been gun violence that's been increasing day by day, and the sad truth is that kids and children are involved with these acts of violence, I think at a young age for these kids, they have experience, or they experience gun violence or seen gun violence. And it's not fair, it's traumatizing, this could lead to, school performances, emotional behaviors, just living in fear, so they confide in like having weapons on them, or people who do have weapons, This is why I could say, as leader, I know the difference between being a leader and a follower. Once you follow that bad path, it's really hard to get out, and I've seen it happen numerous times, and it's never easy to get out. I want to make that be clear, like, but as being a leader, once you choose the right path and you stick with that path, you're good. You're just set for life.
That's
and consistency.
That's a fact. I know I most definitely do struggle with staying consistent. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. I could say that.
Yeah, it most definitely is. I guess, like I said, like putting yourself in that type of environment where you have like-minded people, that helps you stay consistent, because accountability is also important too.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep yourself accountable if you don't have other people also keeping themselves accountable. So
and you gotta be accountable for them as well.
Exactly. So partnering up like that, it does help. I know for me, when I was first establishing this marketing agency, my mom, she kind of just like threw me in the environment and was like, yo, you better learn, and that helped me, because I was not only able to pick up from myself, but I was able to learn from her. I worked for her business for probably like a year or two, and I learned everything when it comes to the foundation of a business, when it comes to the breakdown, how to set up your documents, the legal stuff. It was a big learning process for me, and I kind of want to spread that to others. Like, one of my, this is a little spoiler, but one of my later projects is I want to have a contract with our old school Clara Barton, and I want to have a contract where I could, come in, teach, have my own separate space or class, and teach people about businesses, young like minds that probably grew up in the same environment as us, where we didn't know. So that's coming soon. I'm actually gonna set up a meeting later in the summer.
I just wanted to say two things, right? Like you said, when your mother had put you through this whole marketing agency, stuff like that, I could tell that you're a person that knows how to adapt.
Yes.
You know how to adapt in certain environments that you're not familiar with, because in life goes on. You can't stop life,
Very
so
true.
you have to be quick, you have to be prepared, because no one not gonna tell you but yourself. And number two is that I like that you're gonna, give back to your community or give back to the high school you've been to. So it's pretty. I'm actually looking forward to that.
Yeah, like most definitely. If you want to be on board, then let's do it. Like, we'll say we're gonna need some help with that.
It's like
Yeah.
back in high school, you didn't have, or there wasn't really, I'll per se have like a program like that. But since you've, grown up and know what's available,
Yeah.
what's your resources, you could give back, and find people with the same mindset you have or going to have, and set them up for success.
Yeah, most definitely. Like, giving back is literally what it's all about. And since we're on the topic of giving back, I know that I try to be a leader, so I want to know, like, what type of leader do you want to be?
Nice question. I want to be a leader that helps people in ways where they can find to find good in themselves. Find a will. I feel like everybody has a drive. They need to tap into it. And I'm here to enforce that motivation within them.
Yeah.
I feel as that everybody has a purpose on this planet. And in time will tell that you won't really know until you seek it.
That's true.
Not everything's gonna be handed to you. You gotta earn it. It's like respect. Respect is not given. You have to earn it.
Yeah, I get that. So what type of plans do you have for the future then?
I'm looking to have not multiple businesses, but business that I could scale horizontally, helping my community. Maybe I do want to have a space where I could help my community, like kids, they could be creative in their own spaces,
Yeah.
Having resources, because not a lot of people are financially stable. So, I'm gonna have resources for them to use, laptops, etc. Like that.
Okay. I think that is a solid plan. So what are you working on right now to help push towards that goal? Or what may be some of your obstacles too?
I would say time. I can't say that I do procrastinate. I'm gonna be wrong right now. I do procrastinate.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people could agree with that. But it's a hassle. Like waking up every day in the morning. Getting ready. But it takes discipline. It takes a strength within yourself to really get up and go for it. Like I said, nothing's not gonna be handed to you. You have to earn it.
I get that.
So I want to implement that in my everyday life, and just go from there on.
Okay, I feel that. I feel like procrastination is a big thing. I think one of my biggest dilemmas or obstacles is that I sometimes feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And feeling comfortable is good and bad. For me, when I'm comfortable, I feel like, I could do it tomorrow. I'm set right now. I got a lot done.
It's 7:30.
Exactly.
Do it at 8.
Word.
It's 9, and then they done.
Exactly. Like, even starting this off, I'm be very transparent. I had to go edit the video, and I end up spending 2 or 3 hours on YouTube. I mean, but I was comfortable. I thought, hey, I'm already doing this, but I have to remind myself why I'm here.
Yeah, why?
And my why, exactly. My why is, I want to be a type person that can inspire others. I feel like I was overshadowed, I was overlooked so much throughout life, that I want to be a hero. I want somebody, or if I have kids, I want my kids to be like, yo, my dad did this, my dad is that. The same way I be hyping up my mom, I want to do the same thing. I want to be that same type of person.
Being a role model for them.
Exactly. Yeah. So, all that type of stuff. I want to talk about more growth, what is it that you want to improve or achieve, you know?
Definitely time management.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's so much time in the world, you know, but it's so much little.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if that makes sense. Learning how to, how would I say this? Thinking out the box. I feel as that people don't, they think just one-minded and they're not thinking out the box, you know.
Yeah.
As like having an entrepreneur mindset, you know, is very beneficial. There's so much ideas you could generate in one setting,
Mm-hmm.
but it takes a will it takes a will inside yourself to produce those.
That's a fact. That's a fact. Discipline literally is like the foundation of your human essence. Like that willpower to get up from bed, you know, and do what you gotta do is a lot. That's why, you know, when some people are more or less fortunate, they have more drive because they want to achieve what we have,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And I think with that being said, I think we could help many people like that too. We just gotta start here, you know, start now, start where we came from.
You know, I want to just talk about a little bit about success.
Go ahead.
One thing I always tell myself is that success isn't always the straightest path.
Mm-hmm.
It's not straight. With my journey, it was never traditional. You know, I had my ups and downs. But every experience that I had taught me a lesson. You know, either I gained a new skill or I strengthened my skill set that I utilized on a day-to-day basis. You know, it was like a video I had to watch one time. It was a guy conducting an experiment, right?
Okay.
He had a ramp that had 2 lanes. One lane went straight down. The other one was bumpy, like it had hills.
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted to see which lane would the marble go down faster. So he put the 2 marbles on top and he let them roll down. Now guess which lane it went down first?
I'm assuming the lumpy one.
Yep. So it was kind of crazy. Now when I watched, I was like, when you really put in perspective, every little step that you take means something. You know, it don't matter how little it is. Once you keep moving forward little by little, that will be valuable. I feel like that has value. You know, there's gonna be challenges that you're gonna have to face. There's gonna be hardships that you're gonna overcome. But at the end of the day, and at the end of it, it's gonna be worth it. Trust and believe.
That's powerful. You know.
Yeah.
Like it's true. Life has many up and downs. Like, but I think another thing you can add to is that even though they're going up and down, the biggest important part is that they stay consistent. Yep. If that ball stops, then it's gonna be hard to get back up that hill and then keep on going with your path. You know, so consistency is very important. So
that's a good analogy. You know.
Yeah.
You know, when you plateau, well, I would say you're gonna plateau at one point of your self-development.
Most definitely.
But you have to get out of it, because once you get comfortable, like you said, once you get comfortable, it's very, very hard to get out. It's very, very hard to get out. So
that's true.
That mindset.
That's very true. Man, that is a fact. You know, what is some of your what was one of your hardest journeys to get past that, if you ever experience that downfall or that slump, you know?
I think the people that I surround myself around, I wouldn't necessarily say they were, bad, but they had negative tendencies, and me, I know myself, I know I'm destined to be great, which I am. And I know the potential that I have. Many people told me I have my potential, and I'm not tapping into it. So it took a realization of myself, and I accepted the fact that, you know what, I could do better for myself. And I just go out and just did it.
Okay.
I feel like you need to have this talk with yourself. Don't think one-minded. People try to give you advice, you take it, you acknowledge it, and you think about it, and you utilize it in what you need and what you desire. I don't think of people giving me advice like, nah, he's trying to talk down on me or talk bad. Nah, he's trying to help me, because he sees something I don't.
Exactly.
you know. And once that happens, people believe in you. You know, like I said, I want to inspire people. You want to inspire people, you know. Yeah.
You know, that's true. You know, one of my lumps, or you know, those obstacles that I had to face was anxiety.
Okay.
You know, I made a whole poem about it and everything, but um I have a tendency, like, even when it comes to like get out my car, you know, like for some odd reason I just feel anxious, you know, like getting out of my safe space, my bubble. um Even when I was at Rowan University, you know, going out and trying to talk to people and stuff like that, I felt so anxious, and that stopped me to do a lot of things. You know, even little stuff like if I had to confront somebody, you know, was like talking shit about me or like bullying me or some shit, you know, like that was so difficult for me because I felt anxious. I was like, it wasn't necessarily the outcome, but just the thought process of doing it. And what helped me is that I just stopped thinking about it. I just took the leap. I just got out the car. I just confronted that person. I just took that step. You know, I started that LLC. I did all I had, everything I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
just
how it
stop thinking
starts.
about it. You know, taking that leap and not looking back. You know, that doesn't mean to jump forward with something without being educated.
Yeah. That's,
'Cause-
yeah. Before you think, think a little bit. But
Exactly. You know, I know some people that got a credit card and thought, oh yeah, I could make money using it, and man, oh man, that led to a lot. You know.
But yeah, I think taking a leap is somewhere to start.
Mhm.
You know, because if you have an idea in your head and you're scared to, you know, bring it to reality, that's just limiting yourself.
Yeah.
You just stop yourself from greatness.
Exactly.
Greatness is in front of you. Just go to it. You know.
That's true. You know, and who inspires you for that greatness?
My mom,
Your mom?
my dad. You know, they always told me to, you know, be great. You know, be a good leader. You know, don't follow nobody. My mom, she does not like when I follow anybody else. So I respect them. You know,
Okay.
is that. But yeah, like taking a big leap, can really benefit you in many ways. You know, I feel like if you live in scarcity, you live in a scared mindset.
Yes.
You won't grow. I feel like you won't grow at all. You know, in order to be successful, you have to be uncomfortable with things you not. You know, I was very uncomfortable during those times. You know, times where I had to overthink. You know, but once you start to, like, you know, relax and just, you know, let everything just flow out,
Yeah,
it's gonna eventually come to you.
that's true. That's very true. I think that, and like whenever I experience like small inconveniences, you know, going back to that anxiety part, I think that really does relate to that because, you know, just taking a step back and just letting things ease in and go, you know, because life is going to move continuously no matter what. You know,
Exactly.
you cannot stop the flow of the river called life. You know, there's going to be many logs in your path, but either way, you all going down the waterfall.
Yep.
You know, so the more you struggle against it, the more you push
it.
past it.
Yep.
You know, you're only hurting yourself. You just got to accept, learn the ways, you know, and follow the path that it gives you. It was, I believe, 2 years ago, right? There was this situation that I was in where I had to figure out like how to pay for school. You know, I came into college knowing nothing about college. I came to college without knowing what FAFSA was. I came to college not even know the application process. I came to college not even knowing what school I wanted to go to. You know, my parents had to pick out the school. Like, I went in blindly because I was going through so many things. But when it came to that financial side, I was like, wait, what am I supposed to do? Like, I'm supposed to pay to be here? You know, I thought college was free for everybody. But, you know,
Opportunity.
yeah, you know. So taking that step, I got up, and being put into that circumstances kind of helped me like get up, like, yo, you have to do what you gotta do in order to strive. You have to do what you gotta do to make it. Because if I just sat there and let things flow, who knows what type of predicament I would have been in.
Yep.
But just that unfortunate circumstance, that obstacle, that log in the river, I had to think and I had to adapt to my situation. I wanted to know like more about who I am, and I want to push myself into kind of like continuously trying to learn. We are back, right? So to continue on, I guess we can just share some of our like high school experiences, So how was high school for you,
High school, it was a lot, I could say.
Man.
I wasn't necessarily ready to go to high school. I didn't know anything. But like we said previously, gotta take that leap. So, it was pretty hard, We had a couple of friends. I made bad friends. I made good friends. But I found myself within those 4 years. I would say, well, COVID, obviously. I think COVID did a number on us. I could say COVID.
Cole's what took us out, bro.
Yeah. That's experience. I feel like the generations that will come after us will never experience that.
Thankfully, yeah.
But yeah, it was a crazy experience,
Yeah, most definitely.
Going to school for like a Thursday and then a Friday and then not coming to school for the rest of the year is just kind of crazy.
It was, I know some people was like, going to school was like easy for them, during COVID. But I think for me, it was difficult, especially with the circumstances that I was living in, it was hard. It was hard. And I got that one teacher, I'm not going to put her on blast. She's a chemistry teacher.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, she was something else. I ain't learned a thing about chemistry. So yeah,
But yeah, I feel like those experiences are something that you never forget. Something you could pass on to your kids.
That's true.
I think when it came out to senior like 12th grade, things started to come like very easy to me.
Yeah.
But it came to a point where I had to like really lock in with my grades and my classes. Time was very limited. Time was very limited. You would have thought, oh yeah, I might graduate. No,
bro.
But you slack from the start, you got to pick up at the end.
Exactly.
So, it was a lot. It was definitely a lot.
That's true. That's very true. They did not lie when they said high school was gonna go by so fast. Like, I thought, like, especially with COVID, so like 2 years there and that's it. I mean, some things, but there were memorable moments like at Claire Barton too. Like, at first, I did not want to go to Claire Barton because my mom went to Claire Barton, my uncle went to Claire Barton, so I said, I'm not trying to create this family tree type of Claire Barton thing over here, but when I went to Claire Barton, I thought it was gonna be light work because I heard there was like 90% girls over there, So I was like, hey, maybe this school ain't bad.
Nope.
I was wrong. I was very wrong.
It was very, very wrong.
Yes. Though there was some pretty things over there.
I would say when you do enter high school, there's a lot of animosity.
Yes.
And there's not animosity that's created out of nowhere. There will be rumors that spread around about you.
Yeah.
There'll be people that's like, haha, laughing in your face, but deep down
they feel a type of way about you.
And it's kind of weird, because at the end of the day, they don't know you.
Exactly.
But when they see something that they don't have, they feel away. And I don't necessarily blame them. I feel like it has to come from like
childhood
or
exactly
people that surround with, yeah.
No, that's true. I did have to deal with a lot of that too, and I would think it would be. I guess maybe because I grew up in a type of environment, fortunately, my parents raised me that I'm able to like speak my mind and stuff like that. Obviously, without being disrespectful.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
my parents did open me to that. I thought transparency was everything. I thought if I was able to be honest with somebody, then it would be cool. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. A lot of people have different levels of maturity.
Yeah.
So, and coming to high school without knowing all that necessarily, you'll see people that may, be at the same level as you, and some people that may not be, So,
And you have to live with that.
yeah, that's true. Even now, that's not just high school. That's just life in general.
Yeah, that's life. I always
Yeah.
say that. Yeah. But I did learn to adapt.
Mm-hmm.
I learned to see whether the environment that I am or the friend group that I am is good for me or not.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, it's good to surround yourself with winners.
Mm-hmm.
You can't grow in an environment where people don't want to grow.
Yes. That's very true.
And it takes a level of maturity to realize that, because people still have a mindset of a child, believing that I could just la la,
Yeah.
haha, just giggle. No, like life after high school, life will just hit you, just boom.
Mm-hmm.
I think we all correlate. They didn't lie when they said that. I could say that. But yeah, as high school has taught me a lot.
Yeah.
I've done a few things that I kind of regret. I could say that. Some negative, some positive. But those are moments that I'll forever cherish and look back on. Sure.
That's true, and I won't ever forget that time where I didn't even know Claiborne had detention. But man,
Wow, yeah.
it was wild. And one time I don't remember why we was doing that shit, but I guess we were running from security or something, skipping class, ripped out a heater, put it in the middle of the city. I think that was what's the name? Fitz did it.
I think so.
Yeah,
You know what's crazy? It's the fact that I was an entrepreneur before I even knew it. So little do you guys know, Claiborne did lock up our phones at one point.
Yo, that's
I
true.
want to talk about that a little bit.
Yes.
So Claiborne locked up our phones. They had these pouches called Yonder pouches where you put your phone in before you come to school. They lock it and they keep it to the end of the day. You can't use your phone, can't contact nobody.
Exactly.
Contact somebody, go to the dean office. And I'm like, I'm a senior, I'm not graduate, so it's whatever.
Exactly.
I didn't really need my phone for real. But the people that we seen that were going crazy and out of character because they didn't have their phones was like absurd. So I was like, you know what? Let me be a people. Let me go help them. So me and my friend Will and Fitz. Fitz was the mastermind of all this though. Me were just, so basically he had brung a magnet inside.
Yeah.
School. I don't know
how y'all did that.
I don't know how he did it.
I don't know how.
When I found that, I just laughed. Bro, how?
And y'all would hide the magnet in different places.
So
yo,
he had brung the magnet inside, and he was like, you know what? I can't really have too much heat on me, so I'm gonna let you guys do it. And me and Will, we knew a lot of people, so we kind of had like a base to where to start. So I was like, what? Let's just charge people a couple of dollars to open their patches. Patches, and it took the risk from us because we don't have our phones on us. Like during the whole process, we wouldn't really unlock our own phones.
Yeah.
But if you don't unlock
playing it smart, yeah.
I think for like $2 or $3. Yeah.
I think y'all at one point one of y'all had like a 2 for $3 discount type of thing going on. Yo, y'all was crazy.
We had like a subscription. $10, we unlock your phone for a whole week. But it didn't last long. But the first week that we did started to unlock these pouches.
Yo, that blew out the whole school.
We was very profitable. I didn't think this was gonna happen. But we eventually got caught.
Unfortunately.
And
when I tell you, like when you got caught, like people was crying, bro. Like Like I saw, I was in the middle of the art class. He was like, "Yo, John, they got booked." I was like, "What you mean booked?" He was like, "Oh no, they didn't get booked. They found out about the magnet thing, and people was like, their heart was broken, bro. That was bad."
But it was crazy because like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know much of if it was gonna be a business or not.
Yeah.
But it was like a revenue stream, you know. Like I
Mm-hmm.
know that there could be some type of income coming out of it.
That's true.
But like I said, guys, don't do that in high school, you know, because I had my consequences, you know. But yeah, you live and you learn.
Yeah.
You know.
What did you do? Like, what did they charge you with? What was your punishment?
So so we kind of got away with it. You know, because we were seniors. If it was like I was like a,
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
you know, but it would have been bad, you know. But like I said, you live and you learn, and that was an experience that I'll always remember. You know, I feel like that made me have like a foot into the business world
yes.
aspect. You know,
I guess that was your click moment.
that was my click moment. You know, so when I had my clothing brand in the works of having it in high school, it was my senior year. You know, I started getting a little more brand awareness. You know,
Yes.
started to connect with people. And then from there on, I was like, you know what? In order to take off, I have to keep having this mindset. You know, so I just
That's true.
You know, like you said, when you started your clothing brand, you didn't know where to start. Same thing for me. Like I'm gonna keep it a buck. I didn't know where to start at all. But I just did it. You know, like I was uncomfortable about it, but I was like, you know what? If I have to take this big leap now,
That's perfect.
it would be beneficial at the end.
I mean, do you think like being an entrepreneur is a talent or something that's within you or a person?
I think it's both. I think it's talent or just having a gift, or you creating it over time.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship could go a long way. You could do it by yourself or do it with others.
Yes.
And having a support system is very beneficial.
That's true.
A lot of people tend to, you know, if they see you being successful, they tend to like kind of envy you, or
Yo.
like if you have something that they don't have, they kind of feel away. And I experienced that numerous times. I think you experienced that a couple of times too.
Yeah. Most definitely. Like, I'm not even gonna put people on blast.
Yeah.
But you know, that's a real experience, you know. And I think the best way to deal with that is just self-confidence, self-love and self-confidence. I'm actually gonna have like a mini course about that soon, you know, for free, of course. I'm not one of those gurus.
Tap in.
Yeah, so about like self-confidence when it comes to entrepreneurship, the type of mindset you're supposed to have. And that was like when I first went through that, it was with somebody like that I was very close to.
That's how it
you know,
starts. Yep.
Man, that's when the world opens up to you, man. Like when you see that, it shifts your perspective. It makes you lose trust. It makes you lose like your own self-confidence. It makes you like be wary of others. However, how you get through that is you self-assess, you look back at your own accomplishments. Exactly. You reevaluate, you really look at the situation for what it is. And when you start to think about it, you was like, wait, is this person really that close? You know, because most likely 9 times out of 10, they already shown those tendencies, but you just may not have realized it yet. And since that was my first, since that was my first experience, I did not realize what those red flags were. You know, I did not realize, you know, what jealousy looked like. You know, I may think like those little backhanded compliments like, oh, you're doing so good for yourself. Like, you know, I wish that was me, you know, stuff like that. Like you would not realize the behaviors from different people. But, you know, another thing that's a lesson that I did learn too is forgiveness. You know, forgiving yourself and forgiving others. It's the most hardest thing, you know.
You know, pride can get over you. I'm not gonna lie. Like you said, jealousy could come in any form, right? So you would never know it, you know. But it takes a mindset and mentality to know whether this is real or fake, you know. But yeah, that's really real.
Man.
You know, and it's funny that I resonate with that so much
Mm-hmm.
because I've dealt with that. You know, and when you put in perspective, it's like, what you really do? You really think that like it's benefiting other people, or it's just like, you know?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. You know, I think when you do put that pride aside, you know, for yourself, it changes. Like you feel it's like a bittersweet feeling. You know, you feel like you know you really want vengeance. You know, or you really want to get back at that person. However, later on, when it comes to your own growth, at the end of the day, who did they lose? They lost you. You know, you got the value. You
I
know.
always say when I say somebody does talk bad about me or somebody that I trust with or I'm with, they have no impact towards me whatsoever.
Exactly.
So for me to react a certain type of way towards you, they want.
They want that
They want a
reaction.
reaction. I would never, ever let nobody get a reaction out of me.
Exactly.
That's why it just comes with self-acceptance,
Mm-hmm.
and putting the pride aside.
Mm.
It's gonna be hard. I'll tell you that because you know it's pretty hard when people hold grudges. You know,
That's true.
and sometimes they might not understand, but having grace for them and forgiving them, you know, means a lot.
Giving grace. I think that was the first lesson that I've learned in life, and I learned that from my father. Um, when I had so much resentment towards people that did me wrong that it would beat me up inside,
Yeah.
you know, and it started like probably like in middle school's something else, you know, but well, my dad taught me to give grace because he told me that people may react because they're less fortunate, you know, like that's probably like been the whole topic like just now, but when you have something that others don't, they may react a type of way towards you. So giving that grace isn't only just for them, but it's for yourself,
So yeah.
you know, being appreciated and humble for what you got, because it's one thing if you like gloating about, you know, flexing on people that, you know, that's different. However, you know, if you are still being antagonized for what you got and you're not doing nothing, you just have to forgive, you know, you have to forgive for yourself. You have to forgive, you know, for others, you know, even in like relationships, you may be in predicaments where like, let's say your girl tripping, you know, girl, boy, whoever you're dating. If your partner is messing up, you know, sometimes you may feel like being petty. Sometimes you may feel like, do exactly, you know, do something that is not you. So
You gotta be accountable for that.
exactly. And I think when you put your pride aside, once again,
It will save you the hassle.
exactly,
In the relationship.
exactly, you know. So then not only that, but that builds a healthier relationship, you know, and that's not just for your normal intimate relationship, but that's for others too. Friends, family,
Yeah.
all that other stuff, like even strangers, you know. Like one time I had a hobo spat at me. Ooh, Lord, I was gonna go to jail. I was going to go to jail, but instead I gave him $1, my last dollar on me. I said, have a blessed day. After that, the same date, the same that I came back home from work, you know, he came up to me. He said, I apologize. You know, I was tripping. Like I was upset, and it was cool. And I gave him another $1 after that. You know, like it was a couple change because I had my last dollar. But you know, it's cool. Like you never know what people's circumstances are. You know,
You might just say like have a blessed day or you know do like a act of service, and that might just help that person's day like on another level.
exactly.
You just might think about something small, but that means somebody else.
That's true.
Like as an EMT,
Mm-hmm.
I help patients and I ensure their safety. Every patient I have, I take good care of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I look at them as like that's my family member, that's my relative, you know. And for me to know that I have that person with any need makes me feel like a better person.
Yeah.
And it was always good to give a hand. Having too much pride is like, nah, he good. Nah.
Yeah, that's very true, you know. I'm happy that you do because I know many stories where people who do work in the medical field that are mistreating their patients or individuals, you know. So it's good to see that you are standing up for yourself and who you are as a person, you know, like, but being an EMT is hard. Like, I don't know how you do it.
Yeah. So you're gonna see a lot of stuff. You're gonna see a lot of stuff. Like I said earlier, you know, you have to be comfortable. No, you have to be uncomfortable in certain circumstances because you can't get out of it. It's just there.
Yeah.
You know. And it's very fast paced, just like life. Life is very fast paced, and it moves and does not stop at the phone. So you have to be able to adapt and react at certain times throughout your whole, you know, career or whatnot. But it taught me a lot of things. You know, it taught me that you should always be prepared. When you're not prepared, you don't know. You're gonna be stumbling. Or,
That's true.
you know, you're not gonna be aware of yourself. But being prepared is definitely one of those things you have to implement. There's no talking about it.
Okay. You know, so do you think that also may fall into like relationships as well? Like, what about your own relationships? Do you think having that preparation or that adaptability, do you think that that type of mindset also helps?
Yeah, definitely. I think it helps in many aspects because in order to be successful, right, you gotta have a support system. You know? I feel like that's gonna help you thrive throughout your whole journey, and being prepared to, you know, make relations with other people means a lot. You know, because that's something you always value. You know, so if you know for a fact that you don't feel yourself, you know, to speak to other people, it can be your partner, or a family member, or a friend, then, you know, take some time, reevaluate, and then go for it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I like how I, you know, I put things to a different perspective.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just everything in one box. You gotta look out the box.
I think that's really hard to do so, even for me, because I think that depending on the person, you know, if you establish a certain type of relationship with somebody already, you know, and they know your ins and they know your out, they know the type of person you are, yet they still try to like test you. I find it almost impossible to go back to that putting your pride aside type of feeling, you know? So
that's very hard.
Yeah. And even like reevaluating, it's like, if something is out of your control, you know,
what can you
what can I do? I can't necessarily change that person, you know. That person just may not be for me, you know, too. That's also another aspect of it.
You know, I feel like the saying right person, wrong time, I'm like 50-50 with it. You know?
Yeah.
And then not just relationship, just with like friends or, you know, whatnot.
That's
I don't
true.
know. Like, I'm like 50-50 with it. Like, I do believe in that, don't at the same time.
Okay.
You know? Because there's always a person that's gonna be good for you, or, you know, that's beneficial for you. You know?
Do you have somebody like that?
I can see that. But yeah, like, relationships can only strengthen how you think, or it can lessen how you think. You know?
That's true. Do you think that your partner can also be an asset when it comes to you building your own kingdom, your own financial or entrepreneur?
Of course. I feel as that we tend to be hard on ourselves a lot. I know people that tend to be hard on themselves a lot, but once you have somebody that could hold you down and acknowledge what you're doing and see the vision that you have and go along with you, I feel as that would help so much, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's somebody else that you share the same mindset, same vision, you know? Like being a visionary.
Yes.
You can see things differently than people think, and other people can like see. And for them to think the same way you think, like, that's a win-win.
Yeah, that's true.
That's really a win-win, you know? And I value things like that. I value people like that.
Okay.
But yes, people can definitely help you bring your kingdom up.
Okay.
But it takes pride. It takes their pride.
That is very true, because sometimes they be testing you, you know. Um,
But what about you though? Like, what would you say?
so as far as, I'm gonna use my own personal relationship, you know, our partner. Um, I do think if it is the right person, you know, that person will help you achieve so many goals that you'd even know like you could achieve.
Yeah.
Like the person I'm with right now, when it came to starting and stuff like that, I have this tendency where, you know, once again with that anxiety, it will not only make me stop things, but I'll feel like I know how to do things, but
You don't
it's
know.
kind of like what first, like
Okay,
what's
yeah.
this and stuff. Like I was tend to be kind of like a perfectionist in that aspect. So, and that's why when small inconveniences happen, it makes me also anxious. So it's a whole little cycle that I have. But my partner, she not only is able to help me calm down, but she's also able to help me reassess myself. She's also able to
We confide.
exactly help me reconfine, help me reevaluate, you know, look at what I do know, and she'll help me put the pieces together. Even if she doesn't know much about business, even if she didn't grow up that type of environment, if your partner can support you in that way, you know, or if they could also help you reevaluate yourself, help you reassess and think about what you already know, that will lead you to many places, you know.
You know, I want to just touch on that. Um, it's very, very hard to find people like that.
Yeah.
It's very, very hard to find people with that mindset. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I feel like certain people are kind of self-entitled. You know, they want more for themselves. But in order to build a kingdom, you have to be a team.
That's
You know, you
true.
have to be a power team. You know, you have to learn your strengths, your weaknesses, and then come to one common ground and build from that base, that foundation. You know, but I'm glad that you have that. You know,
Yeah, thankfully. Shout out to you, baby.
but yeah, you know, I just want to make it like, even though I'm like the second guest on this channel, um, I need to give Eli some flowers, bro. Eli, give me some flowers because this
Appreciate
guy
it.
surprised me. I didn't know he was any type of things, whatsoever, and it's like it just took me by abroad, you know. But I see what you're doing, and I see the vision that you're aiming for. So I just want to tell you that, you know, keep moving forward. Don't let nobody hold you down, you know, and just live your life to the fullest.
I appreciate it, man. You about to make you tear up and shit. I really thank you for the recognition. Like I try my best. You know, I always want to uplift you. Once again, you're one of my biggest inspirations.
Appreciate that.
Helped me so much.
I'm glad that I inspired you.
Yes. You know, he is my senior citizen too. So yeah. So I gotta respect my elders. But yeah, man, like I think that basically concludes it. You know, I guess one last question. You know, are you planning to have any kids
Yeah.
anytime soon? Okay. So, what is the first lesson that you want to teach your kids?
That's a very, very good question. You know, I never thought about that. I think being a leader.
Being a leader? Okay.
Because that's how I was growing on, you know, being a leader. So I feel is that they need to learn what's wrong and what's right and what's wrong. Knowing the difference between that and choosing the right path. Even though as they're going to be growing, they're going to experience things that I can't control and that I can't control. But as long as they know what to expect and how to adapt and move on, then, you know, I feel like they'll be set for life, or set for that time being till they're ready to leave.
That's true.
And I can't wait for that. You know, I can't wait for that to happen, you know, because myself, me being a leader and me being a role model for others that I don't, I would feel like proud of myself that I created something that's willing to grow, you know, in a bigger spectrum of, you know, greatness.
Okay. That's perfect.
Yeah.
You know, I'm really happy about that. You know. Well, I guess that concludes it. You know, as we know, I think I'll be an uncle soon. The way he be talking about he want to have kids and shit. So thank you guys for tapping in. Listen to us. There's gonna be many more. More videos like this. Once again, shout out to Ja. Big inspiration. He got big things coming up in the future.
Yep.
So look out for him. And I think that's all. Anything you want to say to people?
Make sure you guys sub up to his channel. This guy has a lot of stuff coming he hasn't talked about, but you guys will be seeing that exclusively. So keep in touch. And I thank you for having me on this podcast. This is it's a good platform for me to speak my truths, my beliefs. And it felt great. Feel relaxed.
I'm happy about that.
I'm on here again.
Of course, soon, whenever you want. I'm gonna catch y'all later.
Peace.